I do thank you for giving me just a minute of your time here, David Tulis. We, as they say in this business, we have a lot to get to, and we're glad that you're giving us just a couple minutes of your time. The top of the Times Free Press yesterday's editions tell us of a trend in state government, and that is denying access to you and other members of the public access to records that are subject to review. We do have a what's called free government in the state of Tennessee, though the General Assembly has been busy in recent years closing it off, making it more opaque. And one means by which it has done that is the Open Records statute. There's a story that moved on the USA Today network. I think it was the same story that was in the paper yesterday about whether you can take a cell phone photograph of a record which you have the right to look at. Can you make a copy of it by your phone, and then leaving there with a series of images on your cell phone, which you can then print out later, or do you have to pay to have that copy made? What if it's just a few pages? If it's 50 pages or 100 pages, well, it probably is not real smart or not very practical to take the pictures yourself and then try to make a copy. I don't know. That seems just to me rather awkward. But in January, according to this report, a group from the State Controller's Office proposed some model language on how government agencies could regulate. Right, you have a right to these records, and now we have agencies that are regulating public records requests. The requester will not, and here's what the language says, the requester will not be allowed to make copies of records with personal equipment. Okay, there you go. Your cell phone is your personal equipment. And objecting is Deborah Fisher. She's from the Tennessee Coalition for Open Government, which she says goes against the spirit and the letter of the law. The Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency and the Department of Transportation have denied the right, have forbidden the use of private cameras, private phones for making copies of records. Mike Bell is a state senator, and he says that, well, that puts an undue burden on requesters who are not bothering their nearby state worker saying, can you make copies of this? Of course, there's a charge made for copies. It's just a few pennies, maybe 25 cents a piece. It may be $1 a piece, depending. In response letter to Bell, State Controller Justin Wilson says the council believes the language is appropriate under state law and that the Tennessee Public Records Act gives government entities discretion over whether requesters may use personal equipment. Government is under Bush and under Obama more and more opaque on the national level, and FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests, which are the federal equivalent of Tennessee Open Records requests, are also being stymied. I have an open records request for, I think it's a 2014 flyover by a massive number of jet aircraft on 2 dates. And I've received part of the answer back. The other part remains unfulfilled, and I don't plan to litigate to obtain the answer to this this visitation, if you will. There were so many white stripes in the sky for 2 days. I said, this is part of weather modification efforts using our skies here to affect purposes and policy goals by people who are invisible, working no doubt under national security auspices. But there is a lawsuit that's been filed against the U.S. Department of Commerce on sky striping, and I'm looking here at a note by Dane Wigington, who runs geoengineeringwatch.org. That's geoengineeringwatch.org, and it is to obtain to compel the Department of Commerce and the national organization, National Oceanographic and Aeronautics Administration, NOAA, the people who give you the weather, to force them to reveal what they have in the way of files and documents pertaining to geoengineering. Peter Petra Brocken is the name of an attorney who's involved in this litigation, and she represents Stop Geoengineering Minnesota, bringing suit in U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia against the Department of Commerce, as well as against NOAA for the failure to respond to requests for information regarding weather modification under the Freedom of Information, under a Freedom of Information request. SGM is a project of the nonprofit Minnesota Natural Health Coalition, which works in collaboration with geoengineeringwatch.org in an effort to bring attention to weather modification and to litigate issues related to geoengineering and illegal weather modification. SGM has requested records concerning weather modification in the possession of the Weather Service, and the reason for the agency imposing illegal gag orders on employees. That is something that's a couple years old now. SGM is requesting an order to have the Department of Commerce promptly provide the records, declare that the failure to disclose is unlawful, that the failure to make untimely determination is unlawful, and that the failure to provide SGM with an estimated completion date for their FOIA request and appeal is unlawful. So in my case, there's no demand for an end of that query, which of course is just sitting in a pile of queries, forgotten and ignored, perhaps because the military department was not agreeable to initial efforts, and since I'm not pushing this request by correspondence and haranguings against the official that dealt with my request initially, it will simply be ignored. And so government is opaque, and even that is because government works in the administrative realm under administrative law, an area that you might say it exists beneath the people. You have the people, and over them you have the state, you have government, and administrative law works underneath them. It's kind of a trap, if you will. It is something that binds people in that realm. It does not have administrative law, does not have authority to bind you, my listener. So in other words, an administrative need by an agency for something to happen is in that realm only, and it can't reach up to you, an individual, and say, well, sorry, you can't do that because I have an administrative necessity. Here, the most recent example of this kind of abuse would be in our area, in the Chattanooga area, would be the abusive civil prosecution of Carol and Thomas Gaddy, who refused to allow a search of their house. They were standing on constitutional protections, and said, we don't care what your administrative needs are as a municipal corporation. We are not yielding our constitutional God-given rights to be free from a search absent a warrant, which of course can't be issued unless there's a suspicion of a crime or a proof of a crime alleged to be in that house. And so the compromise was worked out, and an engineer engaged by Carol Gaddy from another town in Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, I think in the Cookeville area, came and did an inspection on that house and said it was perfectly fine. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it. The allegations, Bob Mayer, Dwayne Land, not even worth thinking about. It's 100% approval of that as far as engineering goes of that house. And so that satisfied the administrative necessity of the city, which was trying to reach up through, you might say, through the people and attach an administrative claim upon a person who wouldn't go down, right? Would not go down into that level, and said, no, I'm not descending there. I'm standing here in the free, fresh air of Sequatchie Valley, and I'm going to breathe that air, the free air, and I'm not going down into your subterranean catacomb where you in your administrative operations work and live. Now that the UAPA in Tennessee, as in every other state, the Uniform Administrative Procedures Act controls these agencies, and they are prohibited from one main prohibition against them, just so you know, is the ban on acts that are arbitrary and capricious, right? They can't have acts that are arbitrary and capricious. Here in Chattanooga, the main operation of this, well, I mentioned the Gaddy case. But there's one even better than that. That's here in Chattanooga, and that's the ordinance that was passed that took effect October the 1st. And as we've given an analysis here on the David Tulis Show, I do thank you for joining me here. The analysis is that these claims of the ordinance are simply untenable. The whole ordinance is untenable legally, right? Legally and constitutionally, it simply doesn't work. And what has happened is that the city attorney has allowed, who controls the city council, the city attorney has allowed the council to act against the people with an ordinance that is illegal. It's unconstitutional and illegal for several points. And if you're just joining us, and maybe you're a new listener to our wonderful station, we are 92.7 FM and also 95.3 HD. We're high definition radio station, digital, right? We're a powerful, wonderful digital signal reaching out dozens and dozens of miles, past 60 miles past Chattanooga, and also the more capacious, probably more popular band 92.7. And we're here. And we've been making the argument that the city does not have that authority. And again, the reason it doesn't is that it is a creaturely argument. It is an administrative argument about how we run city government. And even there, under the UAPA, I would say that this ordinance is illegal. Number one, it's arbitrary and capricious in that it divides neighbors, one neighbor in the district for Airbnb, short-term vacation rentals, the man across the street or the woman across the street, the family across the street, denied even the means of appeal to operate a home for rent for visitors who want to come to Chattanooga for business or pleasure and would rather live in a private house than stay in a hotel. And so that because there's a distinction made between like parties without there being a reason, or there being a reason which is untenable legally, you have a district. And the law prohibits a district being made because wherever it's drawn, based on whatever political pressures, political interest by council members, whatever petitions made upon the council member to be either in the district or not in the district, whether you're for Airbnb or against it, those are all issues and reasons that don't matter. They don't matter, that have no power because they affect a private and innocent, harmless interest. That would be the homeowner who says, you know, I'm going to do an Airbnb, and you can't stop me. And then there are the other reasons that are that show the low state of this administrative claim, the city ordinance's claim against you, the listener. Let's say you're outside that district and want to do Airbnb. The other faults are there are two main ones. Let me just say. One is the $50 fine rule in the Tennessee Constitution that makes it clear cities have administrative and civil authority only. They don't have punitive authority. They cannot punish. The most they can do is fine. And City of Chattanooga versus Myers, the very important case, makes the argument back in the early 1990s that a fine is not punishment. A fine is kind of restorative. It is in the nature of liquidated damages. It is not punitive. Cities don't have punitive powers, which makes you wonder how they can run police departments, right? But those two cases, Myers and then Davis, Chattanooga versus Davis, show that. And so the $50 fine rule says there is no power to fine or to penalize past $50 without a jury trial. Well, cities can't hold jury trials because they're simply creatures. They're simply corporations. They don't have that. They don't have the same authority that counties do. Right? Counties are common law entities. They are also their power comes from the General Assembly. We're told. I would say the power of the county comes from the land, rather. But anyway, counties have that power. Counties can impanel grand juries and handle criminal trials. Cities cannot, and so cities can't have punitive power. And so the $50 rule says that you can be penalized $50 for violating that ordinance, but that's it, right? So it's a toothless ordinance, as I told a real estate man last night at an educational gathering that I went to with my wife Jeanette. That it's a toothless ordinance because it cannot be enforced past $50. If we're to be enforced for another day and another day and another day, with each day being a new offense, would require the city to file a new lawsuit every day, right? And that's meaning a separate case. But the city can't file a second lawsuit, or a third, or a fourth, or a fifth, or a sixth, or a seventh, or an eighth, or a ninth, or a 10th. It can't file a 10th lawsuit against the person who's refusing to budge because of the doctrine of estoppel. That's another that says that once a case is decided, you're stopped from relitigating it. The doctrine is called also res judicata. It's something like stare decisis, which is, when you may have heard about stare decisis, is the rule of earlier decisions, right? Res judicata says, well, this matter has been adjudicated already. We're not relitigating it. And no, you're not filing a lawsuit for the second day that Airbnb person is defying your ordinance. It's been decided on the first ruling, and he lost, and there's a $50 fine, and that's it. It cannot be relitigated, period. It's a civil matter. It cannot be relitigated. So the Airbnb ordinance is toothless, and Wade Hinton, the city attorney, who controls the city council, said it's okay, this is okay, and he passed on that language, which is bluff and threat, and not capable of any serious injury. So you could say that, well, I'm outside that district in Chattanooga, I'm going to have an Airbnb house. Go ahead, let's just see what happens, and you can pay that $50 fine, and that's it. That's as far as it can go. That is as far as it can go. So you see, we're talking here about the administrative realm, and that's where the city's ordinance is. It's in that level, though ordinance in Tennessee law has the same power as a statute, okay, as a state law. Here, though, because it comes from a corporation, it is limited to what it can do. And so that's, again, we're talking here about this lower level of existence, right? This lower level of legal existence, and claims made upon you, my listener, that come from the administrative realm can't prevent you from exercising a constitutional right. And I think if we know that, we're going to be freer, more confident, and maybe richer. And that's what we're going to look at today. How can we make Chattanooga better? How can we make Chattanooga richer? And I have in my portfolio today just got a point or two to make about that, especially since we had on page 1 today the arrival in the urban area of the Tennessee Highway Patrol and the law enforcement community and its distracted driving program. It's a program to prevent people from eating sandwiches when they're driving, or using cell phones, or looking down on cell phones. And it is a kind of a PR stunt, PR campaign that arises from the administrative realm, you could say, in the area of transportation. It comes out of Title 55. But now I just want you to know, I haven't done my homework entirely on this point, but I have asked Tennessee Highway Patrol spokesman for the area, John Harmon, to give me a call back. What's the statute that he's enforcing with this distracted driving story? If you missed it, if you don't subscribe, the newspaper circulation is 47,000, and some people subscribe online, and so they have from the leading news source, right, the biggest news source in Chattanooga, they have some word about this program, where the officers sort of peer down into your car and see what you're doing. If you have a big sloppy hamburger that you're trying to munch on while you're maybe shifting gears or approaching a stoplight, they'll cite you. They'll arrest you and cite you under citation. They'll let you go. Now there's this is all part of not our prosperity, but our lack of prosperity. Though we're told in the PR, which is, it's just all PR, sort of pro-government PR, that is for public safety. We want to reduce car accidents, right? Well, okay, maybe so, but if the people are free and independent and mature, right? If we all have high school diplomas, we must be mature. So why now do we have the nanny state with the Tennessee Department of Highway, the Tennessee Highway Patrol at the Department of Safety and Homeland Security? Why do we have these good people, these men with their military garb, their pistols and their hats and their ribbons and regalia and insignias there to help us, right? We're being mothered by our protector and savior out of Nashville. Well, policing, I'd say policing is part of a problem. Policing is on its way out. We'll debate that, whether it's growing stronger or whether it's growing weaker, policing is strongly supported by conservatives, by people on the right, by patriotic people. They equate our military forces and our veterans somehow with policing. And I would say that here we are, this is an instance where it is a kind of a popular delusion that we're better off in having law enforcement. I think we're generally a pacific and peaceful people, we Americans, though among civilians, though we are belligerent and warlike overseas with our drones and our massacring of Muslim marriage festivities. We are looking to find ways of being more prosperous. And my name is David Tulis. I do thank you for joining me. Thank you.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio.